Today I'm reacting to a video from Money Doubts. This is why Hindu temples are richer than mosques and churches. Let's get to it.
In the 1880s, the exchange rate between the US dollar and Indian currency was 1 USD to 3.3 INR. At that time, a vault in one of India's Hindu temples contained treasures, gold, diamonds, and other valuables, worth over $36 billion. Back then, the price of gold was just $18 per ounce compared to today's price of $2,622.
Was that $35 billion in 1880s money or today's money?
Adjusting for inflation and gold's rising value, that's an average increase of 3.6% annually. This vault, believed to remain unopened since the 1880s, could now be worth over $5.7 trillion.
Okay.
This temple, the Padmanabha Swami Temple in Kerala, holds one of the world's greatest hidden treasures. And this isn't the only one. Another vault in the same temple, opened more recently, was found to contain more than $20 billion in gold and jewels. The famous Venkateswara Temple is estimated to hold around $35 billion. Other temples, such as Shirdi Sai Baba and Vaishno Devi, are also believed to hold billions in wealth. Hindu temples in India are estimated to collectively hold over 4,000 tons of gold, not to mention diamonds, silver, and other precious metals. So the question arises, are Hindu temples richer than churches and mosques around the world? If these estimates hold, then they very well could be. However, churches and mosques are also immensely wealthy. For example, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is estimated to be worth $265 billion, as is the Catholic Church in Germany. St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City is valued at over $100 billion. In France and Australia, Catholic churches have wealth exceeding $23 billion. In terms of mosques, Masjid al-Haram in Mecca, the most expensive building in the world, reportedly cost $120 billion to build, and it likely has assets worth hundreds of billions more.
$120 billion? Oh, wow. I cannot imagine it. Wow.
Al-Masjid an-Nabawi in Medina has over $50 billion in property, while other mosques like the Sheikh Zayed Grand Mosque in Abu Dhabi and the Sultan Ahmed Mosque in Turkey are valued in the billions. At first glance, it may seem that churches and mosques surpass Hindu temples in wealth. But this perception could be skewed by several factors. While religious institutions often shy away from revealing their financial holdings, claiming to serve spiritual rather than monetary purposes, churches and mosques are generally more transparent about their assets due to religious obligations. Muslims, for example, are required to pay 2.5% of their wealth in zakat to mosques, while Christians traditionally tithe 10% of their income to their churches. Hindu temples, on the other hand, have no obligatory donation requirements, despite the emphasis on charitable giving in Hinduism and Buddhism.
Growing up, I'm not sure if I remember my family abiding strictly by the tithe. However, whenever we did go to church, we always had a donation in our envelope to put in the offering. That was every single time. And it's the same thing now that I'm a parent.
Yet even without mandated contributions, Hindu temples remain incredibly wealthy, often surpassing many churches and mosques worldwide. If you're interested in a deeper analysis of religious donations across these four major religions, we've already uploaded a dedicated video on our channel. Another factor to consider is that the wealth of churches and mosques is more likely to be valued, registered, and accounted for, whether in the form of real estate, money, valuable metals, or artifacts. In contrast, much of the wealth held by Hindu temples, particularly in India and Nepal, remains undocumented, unregistered, and underreported.
And not to mention that some Hindu temples have hidden vaults and others have vaults that have never actually been opened before. And I cannot imagine how much wealth are in those hidden ones.
Indian households alone are estimated to possess nearly 25,000 tons of gold, mostly in the form of jewelry, which is largely unregistered. This suggests that the Hindu population may be the largest holder of gold worldwide, and Hindu temples may be the richest religious institutions when it comes to gold reserves.
India, or Bharat, has been invaded countless times by groups such as the Mughals, who actually looted and destroyed a lot of these temples. And don't get me started about the British. That deserves its own video. I think they looted $1 or $2 trillion from India and turned India from the highest GDP country to the lowest or something. The stats are scary.
The importance of wealth, gold, and dowry in Hindu weddings further contributes to this accumulation. For more on the topic of Hindu marriage and its connection to wealth, check out another video already uploaded on our channel.
Is that Umbani?
Another important factor to consider is that churches and mosques around the world receive substantial donations from their respective governments. For example, the Saudi government donates billions of dollars, not only to Mecca and Medina, but also to various mosques and Islamic organizations worldwide. Similarly, many Islamic countries contribute vast sums of money to mosques. In some Islamic nations, banks automatically deduct 2.5% of income as zakat, even though Muslims already give the same percentage in religious donations. A comparable system exists for churches as well. The Vatican, for instance, provides billions of dollars in funding to churches globally, alongside the wealth of its own central church. Some countries, like Germany, even impose a church tax, where 7 to 8% of a Christian's income is earmarked for religious purposes. In contrast, countries with Hindu majorities, like India and Nepal, do not financially support Hindu temples in the same way. Both are secular nations, and government donations to Hindu temples would quickly ignite political controversy. Despite this lack of government aid, Hindu temples remain extraordinarily wealthy. So, why is that? One key reason lies in the origins and age of these religions. Hinduism predates both Christianity and Islam by millennia. Some prominent historians suggest that the sacred Hindu scripture, the Vedas, may have been written over 15,000 years ago. In comparison, Christianity is just 2,000 years old, and Islam only 1,400 years old. Both of these younger religions spread globally through war, missionary work, and colonization. Meanwhile, Hindus have been donating land, gold, diamonds, silver, and other treasures to temples for thousands of years, long before Christianity and Islam even existed. As a result, Hindu temples have accumulated vast amounts of wealth over centuries. In the Padmanabhaswamy temple alone, the treasure discovered in one vault dates back thousands of years. This wealth not only holds material value, but also immense historical and artistic significance, making it potentially worth 10 times its actual value. The same is true for many other Hindu temples. While Muslims and Christians often glorify their religious sites, many of which are just a few hundred years old, Hindus do not emphasize the historical significance of temples that are over 2,500 years old.
So it sounds like a non-Hindu is actually talking and making this video. Can a Hindu person please comment on what he just said?
Yet, Hindus continue to make significant donations and offerings to temples for reasons deeply tied to cultural and religious practices. We'll explore these reasons in more detail next. Despite the absence of obligatory donations in Hinduism, Hindus still give generously to temples. This may be due to their personal wealth or the belief that their offerings will be rewarded many times over, both in this life and the next. Social, cultural, and religious factors play a major role in encouraging Hindus to donate to temples, priests, and saints. It's a deeply ingrained belief that such acts of generosity will lead to greater prosperity, ensure a place in heaven, and bring divine favor.
So hundreds or maybe 1,000 years ago, there was a practice in the Catholic or Christian church that if you paid a priest, that he would absolve you from your sins and you would go to heaven. Unfortunately, I cannot think of the name.
Hinduism, being one of the oldest religions, features many deities, including the goddess of wealth, Lakshmi. There are other goddesses who are believed to bestow power, fortune, and wealth upon their worshippers when pleased. As a result, offering gold, silver, money, clothes, food, and other items during worship is deeply embedded in Hindu culture. This is quite different from Islam and Christianity, where worship tends to be more focused on prayer alone. One reason for this difference could lie in the origins of these religions. Both Islam and Christianity arose in desert environments where scarcity was a constant concern. For this reason, obligatory religious donations, such as zakat in Islam and tithes in Christianity, were prioritized. allowing for redistribution to the poor and funding for protection and missionary work. Hinduism, on the other hand, originated in regions rich in biodiversity, like India and Nepal. Even during hunter-gatherer times, people had abundant access to fruits, vegetables, fish, animals, and birds. Offering these items to deities as part of worship became a common practice. Whether it's the sun, the wind, rivers, mountains, or gods and goddesses, Hindus offer something as a symbol of devotion, and this practice has continued for tens of thousands of years.
At any time in history, has it been a practice for Hindus to actually sacrifice animals to give to gods or goddesses or temples or anything? Because if Hindus are mostly vegetarian, then I don't see them killing an animal. If you know, please drop it in the comments.
You can still witness these offerings in Hindu temples across India, Nepal, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. Over time, as people became wealthier, their offerings grew larger. Land, money, gold, diamonds, silver, and other treasures were given to temples. Since Hindu temples were not obligated to redistribute this wealth, it accumulated over centuries. In contrast, churches and mosques often redistribute much of their wealth to the needy, support missionary efforts, and fund various other causes, making it harder for them to build up the kind of wealth seen in Hindu temples. But of course, humans are flawed, and even within religions, there are those who exploit wealth in the name of religion.
Just like that old practice I was talking about paying off the priest to get into heaven. I wish I could remember what it was called. It was called... Damn it. I can't think.
Corruption, greed, and the desire for power have led political leaders and other influential figures to steal from religious institutions.
Can we all say Great Britain?
Be they churches, mosques, or temples. This has happened throughout history and will likely continue into the future. Finally, with Christianity having roughly 2.4 billion followers, Islam nearly 2 billion, and Hinduism only 1.2 billion, it might seem natural to assume that churches and mosques would hold more wealth collectively than Hindu temples. However, given the vast history of temple donations and wealth accumulation, there remains room for doubt. If you also factor in purchasing power parity, the economic picture shifts even more. If you have thoughts on this topic, don't hesitate to share your opinion.
So I'm on the computer looking up that term. It was called selling indulgences, which was a Catholic practice during the Middle Ages where people could buy forgiveness of their sins by actually making a monetary donation to the church. So as somebody who does not have a degree in religion, economics, or history, I do not know how accurate this video is. From my perspective, I think he made a lot of sense in all of his points. What do you guys think? If you do want to watch another video about temples, then here you go. Thanks for watching.